This is a true horrifying story, part 19. This story happened in Kuwait in the year 2014. Faisal, a 22-year-old man that was a ventriloquist by hobby. Ventriloquists are professional entertainers that use dummies to speak without moving their lips. Faisal was always antisocial and had a strange personality ever since he was a child. He never had any friends growing up and he never performed ventriloquism on a stage before. Faisal only practiced alone in his room, and he would put on a ventriloquism show for other dummies alone. He was lonely. No one ever appreciated the talent he had. This talent used to be a joke among Arabs. One day, he decided to add a special puppet to his collection, and he was in contact with an owner of an antique store in London for many months. A time came where he was able to fly to London and purchase that special dummy that the antique store owner valued so much. The antique dummy was named Toby. Faisal flew to London, met the owner of the store, and he was amazed the first time he saw the puppet Toby. It was like he found the ultimate piece that completed his collection. Faisal purchased the dummy, they packed it well, and they flew it to Kuwait. Ever since the first few days of Toby being inside Faisal's house, things were always just going wrong. Furniture would be out of place, things would go missing, and the piping system would just keep knocking at night. And Faisal's mom would always shout and scream, blaming this dummy Toby. She would scream and shout at Faisal for bringing this cursed toy into the house. "Take this thing out of my house," the mom would tell Faisal every single day. And Faisal always thought that his mom was overreacting. Until one day, Faisal found his 5-year-old brother in his bedroom drawing strange symbols on a piece of paper. "What are you drawing?" Faisal asks his younger brother. He responded back by saying, "Toby taught me how to draw," while the puppet Toby was just laying there in front of his younger brother. Just remember, a 5-year-old can barely write letters on paper rather than drawing demonic symbols. They found out a few days later through an Islamic sheikh that the younger brother was writing talasam. Talasam in Islam is known to be a black magic ritual that summons jinns. And Faisal decided that it was time to take Toby back to London. This is a true horrifying story, part 20. This story took place in Salalah, Oman in the year 2017. Oman is known to have a historic significance of black magic, and specifically in caves is where most black magicians used to do their rituals. But you should know that Oman is an Islamic country and it condemns black magic. Fatima, a 16-year-old girl from Muscat, planned a 10-hour road trip to Salalah with her family. They prepared food and drinks, got their camping tents ready, and prepared everything else before they head out. They finally reached to Salalah, and Fatma's father sets up camp and prepares the campfire. Fatma and her sister run off and explore the area. Fatma, shufi. Fatma's sister finds an old cave under a mountain, and they start exploring this cave. The cave was very cold and it smelled like there were dead animals in there. The deeper they go, the stronger the smell gets. Fatma notices talasam carved all over the cave walls. Fatma's sister suddenly stops, stares in front of her with her eyes wide open. They both see a person covered in black with its back facing the girls. This human-like being turns around and screams, "Get out!" Fatma drops her phone from fear and they both run for their lives. They tell their parents what happened and the father agreed to change the camp location. "But I forgot my phone in there," Fatma tells her dad. Fatma's father starts laughing and says, "Don't worry, I'm gonna go get it for you." They all see the father going back inside that same cave, fearing for his life. 1 hour goes by and the dad is still inside that cave. They tried calling him with other phones many times, but there aren't any signals inside caves. An hour and a half later, the dad finally comes out with no reaction whatsoever. He hops in the car without saying a word. Fatma kept asking if he's okay and if he found her phone. He slowly turns around, looks at the girls and says, "I told you girls to leave the cave, but both of you didn't listen." And they both looked at each other confused, but their veins froze when they realized that this wasn't their father that was speaking. The father suffered repetitive jinn possession attacks. Ever since that day, he stepped inside that cave. For 2 years until he passed away in the year 2019. Jinns are real. Possession of a jinn is real. Black magic is real. Don't mess around in caves, because jinns can haunt you for eternity if they were disturbed. This is a true horrifying story, part 21. This story took place in Dubai in the year 2016. This story was published by Jules Beck a few months ago on Khalij Times. It was a regular school day, and I was 15 years old at the time. I was laying in bed, and I felt something creep up on me. I couldn't see what it was, as I sleep in pitch darkness. I thought it was just my legs going numb. But then I found out that it wasn't. Whatever this thing was, it was heavy. I can feel it walking up towards me, on my body. I also heard strange noises in my ears. Sounded like something was screaming. I turned to see if something was around me, but there was nothing there. I kept thinking this could have been a nightmare. My mom suddenly walks in, and she says, "It's okay, dear. You're probably having a nightmare. I'm gonna read you prayers, and everything will be fine." This creepy thing went away, and I fell asleep after my mom read her prayers. I woke up the next morning asking myself, wait a second, how did my mom even know I was having nightmares? So I went and asked her, and she looked at me confused. "What are you talking about? I was fast asleep at that time, and I did not walk into your room. This never happened before, and I still wonder till this day if I was alone that night." So that's Jules' story. I want to cover something myself. This is my theory behind this story. This 15-year-old child definitely had something that's known to be called yathum, scientifically known as sleep paralysis, but religiously known to be a demon that paralyzes you during your sleep. This is religiously known. If a house is filled with prayers and members of good deeds, good jinns usually protect the house from bad jinns. And the appearance of the mother walking in was definitely a good jinn protecting that child from a bad entity. This is a true horrifying story, part 22. This story took place in Ras Al Khaimah, the United Arab Emirates, in the year 2021. Faisal Hashmi, a horror filmmaker hunting down haunted places in the country. He took a trip with many of his friends to Ghost Town, also known as Jazirat al-Hamra, knowing that everyone in the country knows that this place is infested with jinns. A little after midnight, they finally arrived to that abandoned town. Faisal immediately feels uneasy while driving inside that town. He felt like danger was lurking, waiting for him and his friends. They took pictures of the abandoned houses and mosques, and then finally they decided to leave. Days later, Faisal felt like that trip was not enough, so he decided to go again. And this was a decision he made that he cannot forget till this day. This time, however, he went with just 2 of his friends. On their way there, the vibe already started to feel mildly off. They reached their destination and they decided to go deep inside the town, areas tourists have never seen before. They drive down the untouched abandoned road, and they park the car with the lights on next to a pillar. The pillar was visible. It was very smooth, but it was very old as well. They went inside one of the houses to take pictures, and they felt unusual movements, unusual sounds, and a strange energy that wants them out immediately. These are real senses of a jinn being present and aware. They run out the house and they go back into the car. As they approach the pillar, the one next to the car, they noticed that this time it looked very different. There was a handprint on the pillar, and not just any handprint. It was a handprint that was pressed into the cement itself, just like it was a deep impression. All of them swore that this was not there when they hopped out of the car. The car was parked in a way where the handprint would have been the first thing they would have seen. This was indeed a real jinn experience that a horror filmmaker experienced himself. Jinns are real. Jinns can hurt you. The slap on that pillar was just a warning. Jinns do not like to be disturbed. A'udhu billah. This is a true horrifying story, part 23. Out of all stories, this one definitely gave me shivers. This story took place in Dubai, in a small town called Dubai Healthcare City, in the year 2015. To be specific, in building number 27, May, a 30-year-old from the Philippines. She's an employee working in a store in building 27. She started her job in that store hearing many rumors about this building from other employees in the same place, saying how building 27 is haunted. She would keep hearing different stories from several people she met in the building, including the security guards. On the night shift, when all the stores and clinics are closed, there are no people in the building, and the guards have to go through paranormal experiences every single night. But by far, the scariest story she ever heard was the story about the little boy in the clinic. His name is John. Many staff have seen this little boy around and in the clinic. To non-Muslims, John is a spirit of a little boy. To Muslims, this is not a little boy. John is a shaitan, in other words, a jinn, entities that are created by God that live in their own world. They're also known as demons. In Islam, when a person dies, the spirit of this person does not stay among us. Spirits are lifted up in the skies. Jinns live among us. On one of the nights in 2015, the energy in the building was off. Everyone in the building already got used to the paranormal events that they experience. But on that specific day, the building flared up. Something or someone upset the beings in this building. At the store, May and her colleague were hearing noises of someone pushing a shopping cart. They go and check, but there is no shopping cart, and there's no one there. The noise keeps coming back every minute after they go and check. May and her colleague are dying from fear. They decided to ignore the noise and act like nothing is happening. An hour later, they hear the guard yelling, "Stop, stop." May looks out and sees the guard chasing someone, but she can't see who it is. A few minutes later, the guard passes by the store and asks, "Did you see a little boy running? Or did you see a boy run past the store?" Her throat dried up as her skin started to feel colder. She was horrified, and she said no. But she knew exactly who the guard was looking for, because as the guard was asking her the question, John was right there, staring at her, behind the guard. This is a true horrifying story, part 24. This story took place in Dubai on the 13th of April 2018. Amira, a middle-aged Muslim Filipino woman, spent 20 years of her life living and working in Dubai. Back in 2018, she lived alone in a residential building in Al Rigga. She had a decent job. She worked 5 days a week and had 2 days off. On one of her days off, the 13th of April, it was a Friday night. Amira and her girlfriends planned a hangout on that day. Around 4 p.m. on that day, Amira gets a call from her landlord, which rarely happens. He told her, "Hi Amira, as agreed, don't forget to let me know please." And she was confused. "Let you know about what?" He said, "The thing we spoke about an hour ago." She said, "But we never spoke an hour ago." He said, "I asked you if you wanted to extend your contract because I'm traveling in a few days and I need to process your papers. And you responded by saying, yes, I want to extend." She was so confused. She looked up all her texts, all her messages, but she never spoke to the landlord in a long time. She ignored the situation. She ended up coming back home around 10 p.m. on that same night. When she pulled up at her building, the guard of the building approached her running. "How are you down here? There's someone in your flat and I thought it was you," the guard said. Something very creepy is happening to Amira. Amira and the building guard both go upstairs to her flat, but there was no one there. So they go back to one of the control rooms in the building and they rewind the CCTV footage. And indeed, there is a person that cannot be seen, supposedly being Amira, entering her flat. Amira confirmed after she met with an imam and explained her story. People in the same neighborhood have told Amira that they saw her and said hi, and she ignored them. And this was even a bigger shock to her, because she was never at that location at that time when they said hi to her. There are two possible explanations to this. When Amira spoke to the landlord and ignored these people saying hi, Amira was not at her state of mind, meaning Amira was possessed at these specific times. But that still does not add up. Then who was the woman that entered her flat? Who was the person her neighbors were saying hi to, certain that that was Amira? And this is a logical explanation. Amira was cloned by a jinn many times in several locations. But why? Why did the jinn choose to take Amira's physical appearance walking around the neighborhood? And who was the person that spoke to the landlord and asked him to extend her stay? This is a true horrifying story, part 25. Warning: this is not a joke. The information that's going to be shared is dangerous and life-threatening. Do not, under any circumstance, commit the actions that will be narrated. This is the world's most dangerous book ever, Shams al-Ma'arif. This book was written by Ahmad al-Buni in the 17th century. But technically, the author of this book is not a human being. I never did and will never read this book. And this is your second warning. Do not read this book. Ahmad al-Buni practiced black magic, and he was in contact with the most powerful jinns and demons before he passed away. The jinns were the authors of this book. The elder generations, like our moms and dads, have heard about this book and they were warned by it. There are thousands of horrifying stories of people who read this book. Shams al-Ma'arif explains everything about black magic, how to get in touch with the world of jinns, how to marry a jinn, and the sacrifices you have to do for the devil, and much more. Unfortunately, this book can be easily found online. One day, a Saudi Arabian man that read hundreds of books for a living decided to read this book specifically out of interest and love for all books, without fearing the consequences behind it. He reached the chapter that teaches readers how to get married to a female jinn. He laughed about it. He tried the ritual to experiment it. The first night after finishing the whole book and completing the marriage ritual, he felt someone breathing next to his face. And on the second night, he felt a hand touching his feet. And on the third night, he heard her voice. The man was officially locked in a marriage with a demon. 5 years go by. He met a normal, beautiful woman that he fell in love with, and they both decided to get married. A week before the wedding day, the bride, the bride's parents, and the groom's parents all pass and die in 3 different car crashes. These are the consequences behind this book. And it's also known from many stories of people that have died from reading the first few pages. If you don't finish reading the book, you will get killed. All my stories, all of them, are true incidents that happened one time only. But this book is a product that is permanently available online. I beg you, do not go anywhere near Shams al-Ma'arif. This video is to educate you on the dangers behind this book. Do not go anywhere close to the world of jinns. This is a true horrifying story, part 26. In part 25, I spoke about the risks behind the most dangerous book, Shams al-Ma'arif. This is your final warning. Do not buy this book, do not read this book. Many viewers have asked me, why have I said the book's name? As a content creator and a true storyteller, I cannot provide information without a solid reference. And for those who doubt the information that was shared about this book, Mu'min Abu Mecca confirmed my video and confirmed the dangers behind this book. He also shared a story about the book himself, and he warned his viewers not to go anywhere near it. This story took place in Egypt in the year 2013. A Kuwaiti man was intrigued about this book. He never had interest to practice black magic, but he wanted to study the book. He met someone online that has original copies of this book located in Alexandria, Egypt. He flew to Egypt the same week and met with the man selling the book. He purchased the book and he extended his stay for a whole week to finish it. He wanted to study it in Egypt and then get rid of it before he flies back to Kuwait. On the first night, he read a big chunk of the book and he went through some rituals but couldn't feel anything. He closed the book and went to bed. The feeling was very off in his hotel room. Kinda felt like someone was laying next to him on bed. The man wakes up, has breakfast, and continues reading the book. Out of nowhere, things in the bedroom would start to tip over and move. His spine started to shiver. He immediately decides that the time is up. He got an answer that was real. He called the man that he got the book from, and he told him, "Keep the money I gave you, but just take the book back." He drove to that man with the book. He handed the book over to him and he drove back to his hotel. He stayed in Egypt for a couple more days and then flew back to Kuwait. When he reached home to Kuwait, he started unpacking his bag. He finds the book, Shams al-Ma'arif, inside his suitcase. The same book he was reading in Egypt. The man was certain that he only took one copy and he returned that one copy back. But once you tie yourself around rituals inside this book, the presence within this book will never let you go. The dangers this book holds cannot be undone without religious cleansing. This man suffered horrific experiences for a whole year because he read the book. Not only read the book, but he also practiced the rituals and he did not complete it. Stay away from Shams al-Ma'arif. This is a true horrifying story, part 27. In part 25 and 26, I warned you guys about the most dangerous book that was ever written. A man that goes by the name Samar al-Ruhani practices black magic. And he learned how to get in touch with the world of jinns using the book Shams al-Ma'arif. On his early days, he was practicing rituals by reading verses from this book. And the verses from this book made objects move around in directions ordered by him. Now, I thought the video was fake, but I've dug up a little research about this man and I confirmed that he is indeed a person that practices black magic. By reading or listening to these verses, you might open doors that are very hard to close. So stay away from this book. Now, I will have the video played on mute because it's very dangerous to have the words spoken or listened to from your phone speaker. I will publish part 28 very soon, and I will tell you guys about the dangers of another book that people have mentioned in my comments. Based on some research I've done, people call it more dangerous than Shams al-Ma'arif. So stay tuned. This is a true horrifying story, part 28. In parts 25, 26, and 27, I warned you all about a dangerous book that opens doors to the world of jinns named Shams al-Ma'arif. And in part 27, I told you that there's another book that goes way beyond Shams al-Ma'arif. The book I will talk about was written way before Shams al-Ma'arif. The author of Shams al-Ma'arif had to derive and learn from this book in the first place. It is the first manual for black magic that was ever written. This book is called Kitab al-Ghazali, written by Abu Hamid al-Ghazali in the 11th century. Many religious scholars say that Imam al-Ghazali was not the author of this book, but no one is 100% sure about who the author is till this day. The difference between al-Ghazali and Shams al-Ma'arif is that Shams al-Ma'arif is more technical. Many chapters teach readers all sorts of different rituals and how each ritual works. Al-Ghazali, on the other hand, is a small book that is one ritual from the start to finish. It is so dangerous, I have seen imams putting on gloves while touching this book. If you read this book, you will tie yourself around a ritual that puts you in contact with the world of jinns until the day you die. Al-Ghazali is a very lethal book. Now, I don't have to warn you guys about reading it, because you won't find it, and because no original copy exists anywhere. There's a bunch of rip-off PDFs online that claim to be the original copies, but I doubt it. Ancient governments have burned copies of this book, and with the very few copies of this book left in the world, whoever puts it up online, it usually gets taken down. This shows you the difference between these two books. One of the copies left is known to be somewhere in Oman, and the person that owns it is an old man that sells black magic services. The jinns that he's in contact with are a few of the most powerful jinns in their world. People would go to him, pay him money so he can cast spells on people they despise, and he would cause unspeakable harm to people by using black magic. All this man needs to harm you is a piece of your DNA. It could be a swab of your spit, a tissue that you used, a piece of your hair, or even a picture of you. Only a few people living among us today have the capability of causing such harm to others. They're the ones that passionately tied themselves around books such as Al-Ghazali. We might see these characters in movies, but I assure you that these people do exist. The Book of God always destroys black magic, but it's never that easy. A'udhu billah. If you ever came across an ancient book that reads Al-Ghazali, do not touch it. Only by touching it, you might lure jinns closer to you for a very long time. This is a true horrifying story, part 29. This is an old famous story known as The Boy and the Jinn. This story took place in Nottingham, England in the early 90s. There is a massive abandoned building that has 120 rooms, many dorms, and very big halls.
the building was bought to start an Islamic madrasa, meaning school for boys. They renovated the place and scheduled classes. When the school started, all the students were warned and restricted from accessing the west side of the building. No reasons given, just no one is allowed to go to the west side of the school. One of the students, let's give him a name. His name is Imran. Imran was 13 years old at the time, and he's from Bangladesh. He does not speak a word of English nor Arabic. The only language Imran spoke was Bengali. Imran was a quiet kid. He didn't have any friends. He always walked alone, sleeps alone, and eats alone. One day, Imran strays off to the west side of the building on his own, the side that he was restricted from accessing. He comes back after a while with a Quran in his hand. He goes to the Quran teacher and tells him, "Test me in Arabic." Remember, he does not speak a word in any other language but Bengali. The teacher laughs it off and starts to test him out. Verse after verse, he realizes that this student memorized the whole Quran efficiently, and everyone was extremely shocked about this. On that same night, all the students head to their dorms and go to sleep. During the middle of the night, they banged the principal's room, screaming, "There's a jinn, there's a jinn." The principal found out that while the students were asleep, the walls in their dorm would bang and scratch, and there will be voices coming out the walls saying the name Imran. Then it all added up. They figured out that Imran was possessed by a jinn that was a hafiz of the Quran. So an Islamic exorcism wouldn't really do much. The sheikh would put his hand on Imran and recite the ayat, but the jinn would come back with the following verse to break the exorcism. The ruqya cannot work on a jinn that memorized the Quran. And the jinn himself is challenging the raqi on who knows the Quran better. One of the imams that witnessed this whole situation asked to send Imran back home for 1 month, and that should treat his situation. They send him home. He comes back after 1 month, not knowing any Arabic, not knowing any English, doesn't know anything about the Quran, the same old quiet kid. And no one ever dared going near the west side of the building after what happened to Imran.
This is a true horrifying story, part 31. This story was submitted by Faisal bin Salah. My name is Faisal bin Salah. I'm 34 years old and I've been married for 12 years. We have 2 daughters. One is 5 years old and the other one is 10 months old. I set up a company in a free zone, so we stayed in Dubai for 2 months, from July to September. We stayed at a 1-bedroom apartment at Hayat Regency, Dubai Creek. It all started from day one with very strange things happening. My wife woke up one morning with brown spots on her hand. It's believed to be a sign that someone attempted to make sihr, but it has failed. I told my wife that it must be something else, do not worry. But she was very convinced, because we both witnessed the lights turning on and off on random nights. And these were signs that we believed that had to do with jinns or black magic. On that same night, I started growling very loud. I got up, jumped from one side of the room to the other, where my wife was still on her prayer rug, and I strangled my wife. She immediately realized what was going on and she started yelling Ayat al-Kursi. While she was reading Ayat al-Kursi, I lost the strength in my hands, and then I started gaining consciousness. We went to the other side of the apartment and I told her, "Quiet, quiet. Why are you yelling? We're waking everyone up." She didn't believe who I was at that state that I was in. She panicked and she told me what happened in the bedroom. I needed some time to realize what has happened as well. The next day, I called my mother. She knows a lot about Islam. And she said that we had to leave that apartment immediately. Around 8 p.m. on that same day, I told my wife that I'll be going shopping. She said, "The girls and I are gonna come with you. We're not staying here alone." We all left the house together and we got back around 10 p.m. We came back and saw all the lights off. But we remembered that we kept them on, cause we left it with the key card in the slot. When we turned the lights on, all hell broke loose. The kitchen cabinets were swinging front and back. All the dishes and glasses were being thrown. It was very loud, scary, and traumatizing to look at. We quickly run downstairs, report this incident to the manager, and we ask for our money back. We called the manager upstairs to witness the situation, and he believed his own eyes because he was a Muslim as well. The apartment was wrecked and the doors were still slamming front and back. We then moved to another apartment in Palm Jumeirah. A month later, I was sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone. My wife came up to me at 3 a.m. and she told me, "Do you know what Sophia just said in her sleep?" Sophia is the 5-year-old daughter. She said boiling water in a Moroccan dialect. Sophia only spoke Dutch and English. That was a warning. not to go back again. This is a true horrifying story, part 32. In parts 25, 26, and 27, I warned you all about the most dangerous book that was ever written, Shams al-Ma'arif. This book is a portal to the world of jinns and demons. There's a person that read this book, and this person faces traumatic incidents every single day. She's a woman from Jordan. She graduated university being the top graded student. She is a genius. She has read hundreds of novels. She had a strong passion for books. She heard about this book called Shams al-Ma'arif. She couldn't live knowing that there's a book that has a strong story behind it without reading it. After many months of trying to find the real copy of this book, she heard about an old man that lives in Jordan that had an ancient copy of Shams al-Ma'arif. She got in touch with him and he refused to sell the book, but she didn't quit. It took her many weeks to finally buy the book off of him. She goes back home and immediately starts reading the book. After she read the first few chapters of the book, she felt kinda hungry, so she decided to go to the kitchen and prepare some food and then continue reading. As she goes into the kitchen, she opens the oven and a gale of fire burns her face. She spent 3 weeks in the burn unit rehabilitation. The oven was switched off. No one knows till this day where the flames came from. She had multiple plastic surgeries to recover her facial features, but till this day, her face is not what it used to be. After recovery, she goes home weeks later and she looks for the book, knowing that the jinn was the reason she was harmed. She tried to find the book for many days, but it was lost. Years go by. She was home watching TV one day. She came across an Islamic channel that had a live interview program. An old man was being interviewed on this channel. He was asked by the imams about the dangers of a black magic book that he owns. His body was very unusual and his face was burned off. He got a book from under the table and he said this: "I once sold this book to a young woman a long time ago, and the demons warned me not to stop my rituals, and if I gave the book away, they would burn my face and they would burn hers. And after I gave the book, I woke up the next day without my normal face. And the book I sold to that woman was right there laying next to me on bed. I knew that it was the jinns that brought the book back to me. And this is when I strengthened my iman and I quit black magic." Quote, this was all said on TV, and the poor girl was just standing there, watching the same man speak. The man on TV was the man that gave her the book. The book he showed on TV was the book he handed to her. That was the book that was lost, the book that she was looking for. This is a true horrifying story, part 34. I've been talking about horror stories for a while now. I've talked about jinn stories, serial killers, books that are involved in black magic, and haunted places, and all my horror content is based in the Middle East. But this time though, things have slightly changed. Ever since I started, my horror story videos blew up, and ever since I posted part 19, I got many message requests from sketchy Instagram accounts, and these accounts were telling me to stop talking about jinns and black magic. I don't know if it was or not, but I kind of felt like I was being warned. A few weeks later, after part 19, I eventually posted part 25. And in part 25, I spoke about one of the most dangerous books to read, Shams al-Ma'arif, an old ancient book that carries rituals for black magic. Right after that post, I was facing strange things. I suffered from nightmares. My nightmares were infested with crows. Every dream I would have had to have at least one crow in it. Mu'min Abu Mecca responded and confirmed the information I shared in part 25. And then he got his account banned on TikTok a few days later for more than a whole week. I don't know if this is the aftermath because we spoke about this book or not, but I am facing horror sometimes in my house, in my toilet, during the shower, and even before I sleep. And I'm still posting videos for my fans. Whether the jinns like it or not, I'm still going to expose and talk about black magic. I've had commentators that practice black magic. Wallah al-azim. I've also been threatened by many people that I'm gonna get the worst nightmares I have ever seen, just because I talked about this book. And it's also because I'm making the younger ones get closer to their prayers and their adhkar. Let me hit you guys on a quick secret. If you were not afraid, or seemed like you were not afraid, not even Iblis can possess you. You being from Ummat Muhammad are stronger than any demon that was ever created. And what I'm saying might piss these people and their beings off, but let me assure you, I'm a person that's not a sheikh, not an imam, nor a person that is 100% educated on the knowledge of Islam. But I can guarantee you this though. Even if you were scared from the inside, but physically seemed like you were brave, I swear to God, they cannot do anything to you. I would sometimes shower and hear a woman in the same toilet speaking. I would sometimes sleep and feel like something or someone is sitting next to me. But I act like I didn't feel nothing, I didn't hear nothing. Was I supposed to stop when I got these threats because I was talking too much? No. I'm still gonna post for you guys and nothing can stop me. This is a true horrifying story, part 35. As much as this news hurts me, it may hurt you as well. This is the last episode of True Horrifying Stories. And there is a reason why. This is by far the most disturbing story I have ever read. I was not able to sleep last night after reading this story. So I am warning you. This story is extremely disturbing. This story took place on the April 1st of 2022. April Fools, bro! April Fools and Ramadan Kareem. I am never going to stop this series. Stay tuned for part 35 tomorrow. See? This is a true horrifying story, part 35. This topic is requested by many people. Who is Al-Masih Al-Dajjal? Al-Dajjal is the Antichrist in Islam. In Christianity, he's known as the false Messiah. He is a person, a human being. He will be the leader of the New World Order. His army are initially known as the Illuminati. It consists of many leaders, high net worth big ballers, and also famous people. They're being used as puppets to deceive people like you and I. Al-Dajjal is known to be very old. He's been around since the prophets. He is chained up on a deserted island that no one knows where it is. The Illuminati's task is to prepare for his arrival, and when he is out, he will cause complete destruction. He will deceive many people, making them believe that he is God. He will be worshipped by millions, if not billions of people, and his army will be indestructible. Only with God's will his chains will break, and when he comes he will have supernatural abilities. He will be able to control the weather, strike thunders, fly, and levitate objects. And he also has a one-time ability. God gave him that ability that he can do only one time. The people would go up to him and tell him, if you're a God, then prove it. He will slice a person in half and then bring his halves back together, and that person will live. The scary thing about Al-Dajjal is he's not only going to be worshipped by humans, he's also worshipped by jinns. He has a big army, including Iblis. He will shed blood on earth. He will kill every single being that does not call him God. He will travel the whole world in just 40 days. So wherever you are in the world, you will see him. Except for two places, Mecca and Medina. These are two places in the world that Dajjal will not step foot in, because Mecca and Medina are guarded by angels and they will not allow him in. They say that he will deceive Muslims as well, Muslims that pray 5 times a day. He'll make you think by worshipping him you'll get all the happiness in the world, and he'll shower you in gold. Only people with strong faith will be able to read the word kafir on his forehead. Us humans fear demons and jinns, but this human is feared and worshipped by demons. Now there is a way to prevent him from coming close to you, but I'll let the experts explain how that can be done in detail. There are many minor and major signs throughout time, signs of when the Dajjal will come. And I assure you, we are more than halfway through these signs. This is a true horrifying story, part 36. This story was narrated by a very well-known sheikh on the Merciful Servant YouTube channel. This channel is a legitimate source. They're based in the United States. This story took place in California many years ago. There is a sheikh in California that is known to be a very big raqi. He performed over 200 exorcisms on people that were possessed. He came across another sheikh, a friend of his, and this sheikh told him, listen, how do you believe in this stuff? Jinn possessions, black magic. This stuff doesn't exist. Jinns cannot possess humans. He didn't want to argue with him, so he let it be. One day, he took him to one of his patients that he's been treating for a while. A young Muslim woman possessed by 3 jinns. A jinn family that consists of a male, a female, and their young one. All 3 possessing this Muslim woman. After many exorcism sessions, that visit with the sheikh that didn't believe in such stuff was maybe the 4th visit. They go to her house and he prepared him with the ruqya. The sheikh that was in denial started reading Ayat al-Kursi. Ayat al-Kursi is a short verse from the Quran that we read after prayers. It protects us from the evil eye, demons, and black magic. The woman elevated 3 feet from the ground. The Sheikh's hand started shaking as that happened. The family of the 3 jinns were talking to each other through this woman while the ruqya was being performed. The 3 jinns would shout and argue with each other whether they should leave her body or not. The Sheikh skipped a verse from fear. Seeing this for the first time, he skipped a verse. The woman looked at him and turned her head 180 degrees, a movement that is physically not possible. He took a step back and was not able to continue. Eventually, the other sheikh stepped in and continued the exorcism on this woman. They left her house, and the sheikh that was in denial was sure that these things are in existence. This is a true short story that shows you a few of the many side effects that can happen during an exorcism. This is a true horrifying story, part 37. Who are Ya'juj wa Ma'juj, also known as Gog and Magog? These evil forces have been mentioned in the Quran, the Bible, and the Torah. Ya'juj is a tribe and Ma'juj is another tribe. They're both related. They existed close to the era of Moses, who is Musa alayhi salam. They are human beings that have been reproducing and increasing in number for thousands of years. They are the most barbaric and vicious humans that ever existed. They are cut off from mankind. They are nowhere close to any civilization. Some definitions have slightly proved that they may be located somewhere in the North Pole. And some modern theories state that there is a civilization in the North Pole that we never contacted before. They will come out one day, and they will destroy, rape, murder, kill, and eat everything around them. In all the sacred texts, they are defined in the same way. And many prophets have warned their people from Ya'juj wa Ma'juj. In Islam, it states that for every one Muslim, there are 999 Gog and Magogs. That's how big their population is. In the Bible, they're described as evil forces that will join Satan in the great struggle at the end of time. They are so many that one narration says, during their journey, they will pass by a lake in Palestine called Tabariya. They all start drinking from this lake, till the ones that are far behind eventually catch up. There will be no water left, and one of them will say, there's meant to be a lake in this area. They were cut off from mankind during an era of a king named Dhul Qarnayn. Some people refer to him as Alexander the Great in other scriptures. He joined forces with other nations and built a wall. The whole wall was made of iron to block them from attacking mankind. They've been trapped between 2 mountains for thousands of years. However, the Prophet narrated that Ya'juj wa Ma'juj have broken a hole that is this big. No one knows how close they are today. The Quran also states that there will not be any army that can beat them. They will kill everybody. And after everyone's death, they will say, we conquered the inhabitants of the world. It's time to kill the inhabitants of the sky. They're talking about angels here. They will point their arrows to the sky and shoot. You don't have to be Muslim to believe what I'm saying. All sacred texts, all religions, have warned people about Ya'juj wa Ma'juj. The day they come out is a curse for every human being that will be alive.